Keep it going until he's up here.
Hey, everybody. So, my name's Eric. I'm Ethan's older brother. So you're already... And I just got off the phone with my lawyer, and he advised me I'm only 2 weeks out of the statute of limitations. So I'm actually just going to... No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to disclose to you guys, I'm a person in recovery from trespassing. I'm a trespassaholic. And it's been a couple of years since I've done any felonious activities. But there was a period of time when I was bananas. I was like off the wall. And I'm going to tell you about another time that I got into that I got into some interesting situations. So on this particular mission, I did not bring my brother. I brought a friend of mine. His name was Johnny. And the reason I didn't bring my brother was because I'm like a good older brother. I don't bring my little brother into like crazy abandoned buildings, only minimum security prisons. When it comes to exploring, I'm also a photographer. That's kind of why I got into exploring. When it comes to urban exploration, I'm sure some of you have heard of what that is. It's kind of a trendy thing to do. There's certain places that are particularly prestigious. And when you get into the urban exploration community, people talk about the blue whale of places, the places where nobody's ever been able to get into. So there was one location that I was told about. There were legends of it when I first got into kind of taking pictures of abandoned stuff, and it was an abandoned morgue. That didn't have underground tunnel access, because typically at any abandoned mental hospital there's underground tunnels that connect all the buildings. And at this particular hospital, that was once an active Kirkbride building, and Thomas Kirkbride was this psychiatrist and architect who had this idea that if you surrounded mentally ill people with beautiful architecture and beautiful scenery, would aid in their recovery. So there are a few of these buildings left around the country. Many of them are abandoned, but like my brother had said, a lot of them are still kind of owned by the state and used for different things. So this particular abandoned morgue sat in the very center of an active psychiatric hospital, a state police barracks, and a forensic prison. And literally, it's this little building that is it's at like this crossroads between all those three things. And because it's an active state police barracks, hospital, and prison, obviously the only way to get in is to go in through the front gate. They have two gates that they have to open for you. And there's a guy that sits at the gate that opens it. And I learned quickly that if you go anywhere with enough confidence, a lot of times they'll open the gate for you. So I was with my friend Johnny, and we pull up at the gate. I wave to the guy like, I'm in a hurry, open the damn gate. And he opens the gate. I drive in. I had used Google Maps. I had really cased the joint on Google Maps, so I knew exactly where this particular building was. So I pull up to the state police barracks, and I park in a sea of police cars. So my little blue Subaru is just surrounded by cop cars. And Johnny and I get out, we throw our backpacks with our camera equipment over our shoulders, and we kind of sneak, looking around. And there's people all over the place doing things. But once again, if you walk with enough confidence, people don't tend to ask questions. So we're kind of like, being a little bit shady, trying to stay out of view. And we get up to this building, and there's like a big bush in front of one of the windows. And we go behind the bush, and one of the panes of old leaded glass is broken out. So I reach up and I unlock the window and I open it up, and we are the first people to enter this abandoned morgue since probably 1982. That's when the mental hospital that was mostly, that is now kind of reused, shut down. So we go in, and the first thing we find, we jump through the window right into a records room. And there are all these manila envelopes in these different places, and we start opening envelopes, and there's pictures of bodies on slabs. So all the records are still there. All the patients that had died in the hospital, their records are still in this record room. So we start kind of going through and we're like, this is crazy. Everything was left, medical equipment, everything. So we make our way into kind of the exam area of the morgue, where there's a wall of morgue drawers. There's 12 morgue drawers. And then there's a table in the middle of the room with like a big light over it. And on a shelf, on the wall, kind of next to the table, is a jar. And in that jar is a human brain. And it had, basically, somebody had at one point jostled it, and kind of the lid had fallen off. And I guess it had been full of some liquid, but a lot of the liquid had evaporated or something had happened. It had formaldehyde in it, but part of the brain was exposed inside the jar. And my friend and I, we take the jar, we put it on the exam table, we're taking pictures of it, trying to get the right light and the right angle, and we're just blown away, because basically the greatest thing to find in an abandoned building as an explorer, the greatest thing you can possibly find, obviously a human brain, right? So we had hit the jackpot. So we take our pictures, and we take pictures all over the place, and we explore, and we look at all, and it's just like, it's the most surreal experience. That's the thing about exploring abandoned buildings. There's something about decay, and there's something about, you know, being in a place that's so surreal, it's like out of a book or a movie. It's like a departure from normal life. So before we left, I had this impulse, this horrible, horrible impulse to just touch the brain. To just touch it. So before we leave, I go and I kind of am like, and I touch the top of it, and it felt kind of like styrofoam. It felt like kind of dry and hard. But what happened, every time I tried to eat meat after that, every time I would put a steak or a piece of chicken or anything into my mouth, the image of the brain would just shoot through my mind. And that's how I became a vegetarian.
Eric, everybody.